So I'm going to start by taking your questions. And we had a question come in this week from Karen, and Karen has joined us. Karen asks the question, she would like tips and tricks for cooking dry beans in the Instant Pot. So what I do, Karen, and I know Jean does the same thing, is I buy my dry beans in bulk. I always get organic beans because they're, I'm not sure if they're on a dirty dozen or not. They may or may not be, but they're grown in soil that may or may not be subject to herbicides and pesticides in commercial farming. So we buy organic, and the price difference really isn't that much. So we stick with organic. So what I do is I take the beans, and hi Shirley, glad you joined us, is I take the dry beans and I measure them out with a measuring cup. So for Nick and I, for a week, we find that 6 cups dry is sufficient to add to soups, to add to recipes, to add to food. That big hug, Shirley, to add to food to carry us for a week. And sometimes, it carries over. And since it goes into the freezer, we just put the beans in the freezer and call it good. So we put the beans in a colander. We rinse out the dirt. Lots of times I'll put them on a cookie sheet and literally sort through the beans to pick out the dirt clods and small rocks. And I have picked out a lot of them over the years. I've been cooking beans dry for, over 30 years because I learned how to do it from my mom. So what I did is, I sort them out. I look for rocks and dirt clods, and then I wash them really good under the faucet. So once my beans are clean, I put them in the Instant Pot. And then I have a really good recipe that I created, and it's kind of a Southwestern one. And I was explaining it to you in our Starch Queens group this week. Is I like to use 3 cans of Muir Glen fire roasted tomatoes, about 1/4 cup of cumin, and then a couple tablespoons of onion powder, a couple tablespoons of garlic powder, and a couple bay leaves. And I stir all of that up and put it in the Instant Pot. And this is dry beans that are going straight into the Instant Pot. So then I put all of those ingredients in the Vitamix. You don't have to have a Vitamix to do this. Any normal countertop blender will work fine. I stir them all those ingredients up, not the beans, the liquid ingredients and the seasonings in a blender. And then I throw those into the Instant Pot, and then I bring the water up so the liquid is at least 2 inches to 3 inches over the beans. Or you can just take the water all the way up to the fill point, but that's going to dilute the tomato sauce that you just made. So it's best to just to put the water at about that much over the top of the dry beans, because you have to remember the dry beans are going to really expand when they get hydrated. So they're going to pull that moisture from the Instant Pot into the bean. So that you have to account for the water that's going to hydrate the dry bean, plus you want to have liquid for the beans to cook in. So you're working on 2 things there, hydrating and plumping up the beans, and also adding liquid to have the beans in because it's flavorful. So then once I have sufficient water on there, I just kind of eyeball it. And then I lock the Instant Pot and I do high pressure, manual temperature for 22 minutes. And then I let the Instant Pot do its magic. Hi, Jill. I let it cook for 22 minutes. And then I let the Instant Pot do a slow pressure release, as they call it, a natural pressure release. Then at the end of when the pressure indicator has gone down, then I open it up and you've got truly perfectly cooked beans. The other way that I like to do it is to pre-soak the beans. Now there's 2 ways you can pre-soak. If you pre-soak, you can rinse them, clean them, like I mentioned earlier, and then set them on the counter in a pot with at least 3 inches of water over the top of the beans, and just let them sit on your countertop overnight and they'll plump up. And they'll pull in the majority of the water that you used. Hi, Nancy. So you'll pull in most of the water that you put in there to soak with, which is great. That's what you want. So then after the morning arrives, you then dump that water out, rinse the beans off, put the beans back put them into the instant pot, put in whatever flavorings you want to use. It doesn't have to be the fire roasted tomatoes. If you don't like that spicy Southwest flavor, you can simply use water, some onion and garlic powder, and a couple bay leaves, and you're good to go. But this time you're going to set the timer to high pressure 6 minutes. And again, natural pressure release. So you're reducing the cook time from 22 minutes to 6 minutes. And yes, I have a favorite bean. My favorite bean of all time is pinto beans, but I absolutely love black beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans, chickpeas, and they all truly cook the same. And there's cranberry beans. There's a website called, I think it's, Gordo Bean, but they're not vegan. They're not organic, so I haven't bought from them, but they're very, very popular. So experiment with beans. Now, again, we're going to use simple physics. If it's a small bean, you're going to require a shorter amount of cooking time. So like a navy bean, if you cook it from dry, it's only going to, I would say, take half the cooking time as a pinto bean. A pinto bean requires 22 minutes from dry. A navy bean, I would only do for maybe 11 to 13 minutes from dry. And a navy bean that's been pre-soaked, I would cook only about 4 minutes under pressure if it's pre-soaked. Then there's also another technique for cooking or pre-soaking beans. It's called the rapid soak. So what you do is you clean your beans, you put them into your pot, you put the water up at least 2 to 3 inches over the beans, and then you turn it on full blast, the heater on your stove, you bring them up to boil, you go under rapid boil for 1 full minute, and then you kill the heat, put the lid on, set your timer for 1 hour, and the beans they'll plump up beautifully. So again, bring them up to a full boil 1 minute with the lid off or on, doesn't matter, but they'll most likely spill over. The water will if you have the lid on. So keep the lid off. And so once you've gone a minute under a rapid boil, turn the heat off, lid goes on, and soak for 1 hour. Then drain the water. Put the beans in your instant pot and cook for 6 minutes. Now that's for pinto beans and any bean that is about the size of a pinto bean. And then you'll adjust your cook times for smaller and larger beans. Now, if you're going to do that with a lima bean, you're going to probably need to increase your under pressure time to about 15 minutes. But I love beans. I really am liking adzuki beans. Dr. Furman absolutely recommends adzuki beans, and they're kind of a nutty, small bean, and I cook them from dry, but they're a little bit more delicate per se. So I will pre-soak those. So here's something else. Every bean that's dry, you can rapid soak the same way. It's always up to a full boil, under pressure under rapid boil for a minute, turn off the heat, soak for 1 hour, then rinse, put them into the Instant Pot. Adzuki beans, I only cook for 3 minutes under pressure, and then I let the pressure go at 10 minutes, and that's for adzuki beans. Adzuki beans are great in pasta, really good. I like them, cook them without the tomato sauce that I was talking about. I just like cooking them plain with water, onion, and garlic, and a basil leaf, and then I rinse them. I love to then freeze them and put them in salad. They're super good in salad. Adzuki beans are really high in nutrients. I really like them. But again, they're a smaller, more delicate bean, so I don't cook them as long as a pinto bean. So, Shirley, I get adzuki beans at my local health food store. They're more common in stores like natural food stores. Some higher end grocery stores are going to have them in their bulk section. I don't think I've ever seen like a package of 1 pound package of adzuki beans, but they're really good. Lots of times you'll see them in the bulk section of stores. So that's Amazon. Everything's on Amazon. You could definitely try Amazon. After the live broadcast, I will post a link, Shirley, to adzuki beans if they have them on Amazon to help you out, to make sure I have the spelling right and to make sure that they're organic. Asian grocery store? Maybe. Hey, you can always try, you can always try. And here's my motto if you overcook beans. If you overcook beans, it's not the end of the world. As long as they're not burnt, just get your potato masher out and mash them up. And you've got refried beans. Add a little bit of veggie broth and mash them up, and you've got beautifully yummy. Add a little garlic powder, add a little more onion powder, maybe a little pinch of, let's see, what would be good. I just love onion and garlic powder as base ingredients for refried beans. So if you overcook them, and as long as you don't burn them, and the only way you're going to burn them is if you don't have enough water in your pot, is to mash them up. And then same thing, you can mash them up, put them in a container, keep what you need for a week in the fridge, and put the rest in the freezer. It'll work fantastic. Beans are very versatile, and most people are absolutely scared to death about cooking beans. They're like, oh my gosh, how do I cook beans? And it's really the easiest thing in the world to cook. Shirley says she's been eating black beans lately. I love black beans. Black beans are high in fiber, and they have the low starch resistant. They're a starch resistant plant, so they're really, really good. All right, let's on. I hope that answers your question, Karen, and give it a try. So our second question comes in from our friend Karen, who is wanting to know what a plate of food looks like for the Starch Queens. And I printed out a wonderful graphic today, Karen, and I left it out on my desk at work because I was talking to Jean, and I was very worried about her when she said that she was without power and trees were falling. And so I got discombobulated. So what a Starch Queen plate looks like. So if you recall, I posted in our group 2 pictures. One is a big salad that I will have in the beginning of my meal. And then it's a regular, say 12-inch, 13-inch plate. Or my bowl, I have what I call a bowl plate. So it's a big plate that's got rounded sides. And I will fill half of it with veggie mixture. So that's cauliflower, broccoli. I'll add zucchini. I'll add corn, green beans, Brussels sprout. Boom. Always 50% of my plate every single time. I mean, we're talking 3/4 pound of raw, which cooks down to about a 1/2 pound of cooked. So that's kind of my barometer, is I will start with around a pound-ish of vegetables. And that's really like 1 package of, say, frozen broccoli, or 1 bag of frozen cauliflower. And so yesterday when I went to lunch, I went to the grocery store and I got some frozen peas, some frozen corn, some frozen broccoli, and I just opened up all the bags and I just took about 1/3 out of each one, threw it in my steamer, and then I used half a bag of the already cooked brown rice, those were 1 cup servings, and I only wanted to have about 1/2 cup, and then if you want to have some beans, about 1/2 cup. So I make sure that I have about 50 to 70% veggie, and then about, say, a 25%, 30%, I'm going to be off on the 100 percentile here. So this is just a guesstimate of starch, which can be rice, sweet potato, and then of course your beans. And just get a mental note that half of your plate should be vegetables. And then the other half can be something that you want, like a starch, or it can be a soup. And like we were talking about in our meal sequencing and on our calorie density program or lecture is salads and then veggies and then a soup, or you can follow up with your starch, but you want to have your starches at the end. So the bulk of your stomach is filled up with low calorie, high nutrient foods. And that's what's going to generate weight loss. All right. So next up is, what exactly is a whole food plant-based diet and how does it differ from being vegan? Well, a whole food plant-based diet is different from a vegan diet because vegans will have adopted a lifestyle that they are against animal cruelty. They want to improve the environment, but most importantly for them, it's about animal cruelty. And they do not use any products that are from any animal source: leather, lanolin, wool. They will not use bees, honey, or beeswax, but they do consume a lot of processed foods. Whereas a whole person who's whole food plant-based, we are adopting this lifestyle that omits animal and dairy food because of the health implications it does to our body. So we're looking at this as a health promoting lifestyle, where we're not as against using leather, or we're not as against using wool products, or we're not against using small amounts of honey or beeswax in cosmetics, where very strict vegans will not use even any cosmetics that have beeswax in it. And the other difference between a whole food plant-based person is we won't eat Oreos. Oreos are vegan. And so is the apple pie at Costco, but it's what's called accidentally vegan, but it's full of hydrogenated fat, full of ingredients that you can't pronounce, full of sugar. So this is outside the boundaries of a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So again, vegans, God love them. They are absolutely passionate about animal rights, protecting animals, and we need them. We need them. And I have progressed through my journey that now I'm very compassionate towards animals, and I really try and go out of my way to not use animal products. I have become vegan organically through the 6 years that I've been plant-based, and really came to terms with, wow, we don't need to have animal products in our life and in our life for our personal use. And so I still have leather shoes in my closet. I still wear them because I paid for them, and it would be in vain if I just threw them away, because right now they're benefiting me. But for future purchases, I go out of my way to try to get great quality products that don't have animal products in it. And the more we drive demand through consumerism by wanting these non-animal based products, the sooner our environment is going to get healed from the atrocities that's being happened. Dairy farms are methane gas. There's just the thousands and millions of acres being used to produce the food to feed the cows is, it's hampering our weather. It's affecting our environment. And most importantly, cows are dying needlessly. We don't need animal products to support human life. So again, veganism is about compassion and animal cruelty. Whole food plant-based lifestyle is about putting your health first and eating in a manner in which it's going to reverse disease and heal the body. So that's the difference there. The next question I have is, what is casein protein? Casein protein is a protein that we get from animals, from meat and from dairy. And this is the protein that Dr. T. Colin Campbell identified through the China study. And we've linked, and through his studies, they found that casein protein has linked the cancer gene. It turns on the gene expression in, sorry, I'm going to back up here. the casein protein turns on the cancer gene, and then the body goes out into angiogenesis, and this is where disease and cancer grows. So casein protein was identified again through the China study, and the link was made to disease, and we do not want to have casein protein in our body at all cost. So those are the questions that I have for tonight. Didn't have too many people put questions up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up. Does anybody who's watching have any questions? Shirley, Karen, if you have a question for me, go ahead and post it below. I can see it. Otherwise, I'm going to go on and give you a little update. Jean is still in the process of her series with Dr. Neil Barnard. She's doing the Power Food for the brain with Dr. Neil Barnard, and the third video should be out shortly. Tomorrow night, I will be guest hosting with Jeannie Trezino on Non-Human Radio here in Chico. Jeannie Trezino is a vegan activist and has a radio show called Non-Human Radio. So tomorrow we've got lots to talk about. We're going to talk about my upcoming cooking class. Nick and I are doing a cooking class at the Sky Creek Dharma Center here in Chico. It's going to be on, excuse me for all the ums, it's going to be batch cooking and storage, and how you can cook for 2 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday or any day of the week and save about 7 hours per week in your home wellness center. So let's see, Shirley, will Jean be talking to Neil Barnard about reversing diabetes? So what they're doing now, Shirley, is they're doing the Power Food for the Brain series. They've already done the Cheese Trap series. What I recommend you do is to go onto YouTube on Jean Schumacher, Plant Powered, her YouTube channel, and watch the Cheese Trap series, and it will answer your questions on reversing diabetes. And I can help you on that one as well. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is where there's a lot of myths out there that we got to watch the sugar and watch the carbs. It's actually the fat. It's the fat that prevents insulin from pulling the glucose into the cell, where the cell processes it and breaks it down. So the more fat people eat, the higher their insulin resistance gets, and the greater and the more increased their type 2 diabetes becomes. So the doctors, our doctors, a lot of them are not trained and don't know about nutrition. There's a wonderful presentation that I did with our Plant-Based Chico meeting last month. I interviewed Dr. Karen Ramshai, and I posted the live broadcast in Plant-Based Chico. I will see if I can find it. I'll just have to go scrolling through it. And she did a wonderful presentation on diabetes. It's very good, and it's in Plant-Based Chico. Again, it's eliminating and removing fat from your diet. Now, this is all fat. Fat from nuts, fats from seeds, nut from avocados, animal fat, dairy fat. You've got to get your fat intake almost down to zero. Literally zero. And when the fat is out of your bloodstream, then your cells, the insulin can work its way out, because insulin is the key that opens the cell, that brings the glucose into the cell so that it can be metabolized and used for growth and for energy. So it's when we have too much fat flowing through our bloodstream that we have a hard time getting our insulin levels down, the glucose levels down. So right now, Shirley, I really believe that you need to focus on really looking at your what the food is that you're eating, or anybody who's watching this. If you're eating processed foods that have hidden oils, or if you're using oil in your cooking, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to get off the insulin. You're going to be prolonging the inevitable, which is increased insulin usage. So it's really, really important to remove the fat. And I promise you, when you do that, your blood sugar numbers are going to go way down, and you're going to really need to adjust your insulin dosage. It works every time. I have somebody that I've been coaching from Central California, and she was a pretty severe type 2 diabetic. And within 10 days of removing the processed food from her diet, she was off her insulin. And she was eating crackers and yogurt, and she let dairy slip back in and frozen yogurt. And she couldn't figure out why her insulin was, she wasn't eating meat. She wasn't eating any meat, but she really didn't put the link together with yogurt and frozen yogurt and fat-free frozen yogurt. And that's really a misnomer, because fat-free, everything dairy has got fat in it. And remember, dairy always has casein protein in it. And so you've got to make sure that you look for those hidden fats. And as soon as you're a label detective and you get the oil, the avocado, the nuts, the seeds, the hidden fats that are in processed foods out of your diet, your insulin requirements are going to come way down, because your blood sugar is going to come way down, because the insulin that your pancreas is making is going to be able to work efficiently. So this is what our doctors don't tell our type 2 diabetic people, is because they're not up to speed on the fat, the role that fat plays in insulin resistance. So I hope that helps, Shirley. And Jean and I are always ready to help you every step of the way. So let me see what you read. It says, it's so hard to figure out the amount and what foods are the key foods to eat. Shirley, it's actually, let me break it down for you. You do not want to have any meat. That's number one. You do not want to have any dairy. And what that means is no milk, no cheese, no yogurt, no sour cream, no mayonnaise. Let's see, what else is milk in? Dry milk products, whey protein isolate. If you're eating things like power bars and those energy bars, those prepackaged energy bars, many times those have what's called whey protein isolate in it. That's dairy. Whey protein is a byproduct of milk. It's been pulled out. Oh, it says, I'm not any of those. Good. Don't eat those. Waste of money. So eat your plants, sweet potatoes, beans, all the vegetables, every kind of vegetable you can think of, every kind of fruit that you can think of. That's everything that you eat. I know that you've got some great recipe books. You don't have to get all elaborate in making fancy recipes. You see what I eat, what I'm posting in Starch Queens Monday through Friday. I make it really super simple. I just put these plants in a steamer. I cook them up, and it's good to go. I feel great. Lettuce, you can get prepackaged microgreens, prepackaged lettuces, and I literally take handfuls of them and put them in a bowl and put some balsamic vinegar on top and call it good. Remember, we're fueling ourselves. We're not eating for pleasure anymore. We're eating for disease reversal and health. Let's see. We got quit eating fat, and my AC went. Oh, I got to read what Karen said. Karen, I want to back that up. It said quit eating, and your AC went from. What did it say? Your A1C went from 5.7 to 4.3 in a very short time. See, exactly. That's the key right there, is removing the fat. Let's see. I had another one question about food processors. I need to get off Shirley says I need to get off the 2 insulins. You do, Shirley. I really want you to get those off of those. Diane, you're asking for, I'm looking for a good food processor. Any recommendations? Yes, I'm actually looking for one of those myself. I actually have a KitchenAid, and I'm such a KitchenAid girl. I have been in love with the brand KitchenAid for eons and eons and eons. I had a KitchenAid refrigerator. My mother-in-law had a KitchenAid stand mixer for years. Nick and I never invested in one because we had a wedding gift, a hand mixer. It was a Hamilton Beach hand mixer, and it lived for 30 years. And I could not justify going and buying a $350 stand mixer when I had a perfectly good stand mixer, when I had a hand mixer that worked. And we didn't make a lot of cookies and stuff, so I couldn't justify it. But I finally bit the bullet when our hand mixer broke, and I bought a KitchenAid stand mixer. Then I bought the KitchenAid food processor. Before that, I think I had might have been another Hamilton Beach, but it was not any good. So currently, I have a KitchenAid, and I'm not 100% in love with it. It seems to get off balance. It's probably 3 years old now, 3.5 years old. And like all things, appliance companies, they want to make it bigger, better, faster, add more bells and whistles. And it's got the big bowl and then the little bowl that goes in it. You can swap it out. And honestly, I think they overthink it and put too much stuff in it. So I'm not happy with my KitchenAid. And that's the first piece of appliance I've never been happy with. It works. But again, I don't like it when it bounces around on my countertop. That's not safe, for one, and I have to babysit it. I've really been doing a lot of research between Breville and Cuisinart. Cuisinart has a very good one that's at the comparable price to KitchenAid, about $200, and I'm going to invest in the Cuisinart. I've made the decision to go Cuisinart. I will post the link to the Cuisinart in the comments below after we're done going live here, and show you the one that I'm going to buy. So I'm going to re-gift. I don't even know if I feel comfortable giving this KitchenAid away, because maybe I have a bad one. Maybe I should contact KitchenAid and tell them that maybe that's some malfunction in the motor or something, but I'm just not in love with it. So I'm probably just going to throw it away. But now that I think about it, I think I'll call KitchenAid. Maybe they'll replace it. I did turn in the warranty card, so we'll see. So Cuisinart has a really good one that is really good, and I'm leaning towards that. I read all the reviews, and so I'll post a link to the one that I'm looking at. What else do we have? Oh yes, Shirley, eating big salads every day, add beans. Those are great recommendations. The more beans you can have, the better. Beans they are a low GI index food. Beans do not increase your blood sugar. They actually do the opposite. They help maintain your blood sugar so that your blood sugar is even throughout the day. So beans are great. They're full of fiber. They're full of resistant fiber, so that's even more of a win-win. Micronutrients, but the big thing with beans is the fiber, and they have protein. They're just really, really good for you. They're a great source of macronutrients. Sure, Diane, my pleasure on posting the link. So let's see, I want to follow up. I'm going to post a link to the organic Adzuki beans on Amazon and the Cuisinart food processor that I like. I'll put both of those links there. Does anybody else have any more questions for me tonight? It is about 20 to 6. We usually like to wrap these up about 45 to 60 minutes. And let's see, we've got, what do you think of vegan sour cream made of cashews? I love it, but is there too much fat? Yep, too much fat. But it also, Karen, depends on, or Nancy, what it depends on is where you are in your journey. So everybody is different. So I love nuts. Nuts are fantastic. They're a wonderful source of minerals, wonderful source of omega-3 fatty acids. If it's walnuts, Brazil nuts, they're fantastic. They have a lot of selenium in them, really good for your brain. And I don't know if you knew this, but Dr. Greger, if you read How Not to Die, he recommends 2 Brazil nuts a week to help lower your cholesterol. So I have 2 Brazil nuts every week. But to answer your question on cashews, cashew cream is fantastic and it's wonderful. But again, it's a little bit of a pleasure trap situation. For me, if you still have weight to lose, or if you have a lot of nuts in the house, are you going to use those nuts as snacking food, or are you going to only buy what you need to make the cashew cream for an ingredient? But yeah, it is higher in fat. It is not as high in fat as, say, sour cream, or even the knockoff soy-based sour cream that you can get, the non-dairy sour cream, because it's got a lot of additives. If I'm going to make a cream for a recipe, I always make it out of cashews. I will make a cashew cream. But again, it's got to be very limited if you're in weight loss mode. If you're maintaining, then you've got to, make a judgment call. You need to know your body. If you're getting more fat grams per day. That, remember, fat gram is 9 calories versus a gram of calories from a fruit or a vegetable of 4 calories per gram. So the fat grams got the 9 calories so per gram. So you got to be very careful about that. So it's your call. I think it's wonderful. I love cashew cream, and it's absolutely a wonderful alternate to regular sour cream that is dairy. So, again, use your judgment. Where are you on your weight loss journey? But if you're great and if you're at maintenance, then by all means use it. I think it's a fantastic plant-based alternative to dairy products. And Nancy says, I use half a cup and probably get 4 servings out of the batch. Too much. Are you having that, Nancy, all in one day, or are you spreading that out over a course of a week or say 3 or 4 days? Because the cashew cream lasts about 3 or 4 days. So you're in weight loss mode. So if you're in weight loss mode, a half a cup, I'm trying to think about how many calories that has right now. Last time I checked, is an ounce of cashews have 120 calories per ounce. So 4 ounces. So say you've got 400, close to 500 calories in half a cup for serving. So you're about 125 calories of serving. So it's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker. And here's my other philosophy is if it means you eating a whole bunch of vegetables, then by all means have a little bit of the cashew cream sauce. It's the only way that you can handle getting a big volume of vegetables in, just use the cream sauce, but then start reducing the amount that you use so that your tongue is picking up the flavor of the vegetables. So that's my analogy. That's my philosophy, is while you're, really learning this lifestyle and your taste buds are changing, start with it, start reducing it, because you just don't want to have a lot of fat. Fat in your bloodstream is going to affect your blood sugar. It's going to add to the velocity of your blood. It slows it down. So we just have to be careful about those things. See, and then it says over a week at, Lent. Are you in Lent, Nancy? Did you say that you're in Lent? Or am I reading that wrong? Over a week at, maybe that's a typo. Not sure. So my pleasure, Nancy. Do we got any more questions? Let me scroll back here. Hi, Donna. Thanks for joining. Shirley says no nuts for you right now. Yeah. Misty says, should we only eat a certain amount of beans a day? I know Dr. McDougall recommends a certain amount, but does the Starch Queens. So I follow what my doctor, I have a vegan, my personal doctor. She is a gynecologist, board certified gynecologist, and a board certified or has a double degree in nutrition. And because I'm in my mid-50s, I'm postmenopausal, she said that I need to eat a minimum of 1/2 to 1 cup of beans at least 5 times a week. And that is to keep adding, it helps with my protein, because the more we age, the more our muscle mass depletes. So we're thinking about beans being a protein, a macronutrient. They're the building blocks of our muscle. So she's recommending that I have 1/2 to a cup of beans 5 days a week. Do I get that in every week? Not always. Sometimes I'll have a cup twice a day. So if I'm, depends on if I have a big tostada for lunch, and then I have, we do something with rice and beans for dinner. If Nick's home from work and he's put a big, huge Buddha bowl together with rice and beans, I'm not going to say no to it because I already had my cup of beans. I mean, they're fantastic. They're 145 to 150 calories, and they're a great source of food. So because you're running, Misty, I recommend everybody that I coach to try and have a minimum of 1/2 a cup every day if you are running and walking and moving. If you're my age, bump it up a little bit, have a 1.5 or 1/2 to 1 cup a day, but you don't have to get all OCD about this. This is a recommendation. And the bottom line is, as long as we're eating a broad spectrum of fruits, nuts, legumes, starches, leafy greens, whole grains, then we're fine. We're not going to die of malnutrition because we didn't get our half a cup of beans in this week. It's not like that. Your body doesn't work that way. But again, you want to just make sure that you're cognitive of what you eat, because it matters. Everything that you put in your mouth matters. This is why we are here doing what we're doing. But just keep in the back of your mind that you want to have a good selection of beans on hand, and that you want to make sure that you add them to something that you eat 4 to 5 times a week. And if it's 7 days a week, that's even better. Like I just said, it's an insulin resistant starch, and it is a starch, and it's starch. Excuse me, I went and lost my train of track, my thought train here. So it's a great insulin resistant starch, and it's fantastic. Beans are a superfood. So eat all the beans you want, basically, Misty. I know you've got a big family, and they're inexpensive, and use them, eat them, embrace them. Beans are wonderful. For those of you who are watching who might be just new to transitioning to this lifestyle, I get a lot of people that reach out to me and they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm turning into the Hindenburg. I've got so much gas. What do I do? I've never eaten this many beans before." So people have to understand that your body has coming from a standard American diet where it was heavy in meat, heavy in cheese, heavy in processed food. And what do all of those foods lack? They lack fiber. So what you're doing is you're just tidal waving this tsunami of fiber into your system, and your system's been battling the great war, like the crusades against processed foods and fat, that your liver is, and your digestive system's been in like survival mode. And then your colon and your small intestine and your large intestines are like getting fiber from sweet potato, roughage from leafy greens and fruits. And it's just like, it doesn't know what to do. So it's trying to digest the food. It's trying to break it down. So when your digestive system is trying to break down these foods is when you get stomach pain and gas. So I recommend to everybody, start with your starches. That's what McDougall tells us. Start with your vegetables and your leafy greens. They're going to have the smaller amount of fiber. So we know there's fiber in all plants, but it's not going to be as much fiber as in a bean or a lentil. Those are going to be just pure starch. So take it slow, a slow roll, ease into those beans, ease into those legumes. And peas, are a legume too. So kind of like be mindful of having maybe a quarter of a cup 2 or 3 times a week as you heal your upper and lower intestine and colon, as your body is adjusting to the tsunami of fiber. So beans are great. Eat them up. And I know that, Misty, you've been plant-based long enough. Go for it. They're a very health-promoting, weight-reducing food. All right. Do we have anybody else? Hi, Donna Holly. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Let's see. Donna says, I made your pinto beans from PB potluck this week. They were so good. Oh, fantastic. Those are really good. I've been making that recipe for a long time. Hi, Colleen. Thanks for joining the Starch Queens. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end. It is a few minutes before 6. I want to take any more questions. If anybody has any more questions, comment below and I'll take them. We're having some great results in the Starch Queens program. Everybody's doing good. We're having more signups. We had a couple more people sign up this week. We're super excited about that because Jean and I want to help as many people as we possibly can reach their health destination. Let's wrap up the next 10 minutes about the trifecta. Let's talk a little bit about your environment and your chemicals. In the Starch Queens group today, I posted a cosmetic company that I'm really, truly in love with. They're out of Australia. They're called Zuii, Zuii. And I found them through my esthetician, Kathy Anderson, here locally. I got my eyebrows waxed, and she has this she was telling me about this grant that she got to start her business, and she's Buddhist. She's all about being vegan and environmentally conscious and no chemicals. And she's like, oh, Nancy, you're really looking for great products. I want to tell you about this cosmetic line I have. And I was like, piqued my curiosity. So I checked it out, and I bought the foundation, and I bought a couple eyeliners, and I was instantly in love with this product. And so Zuii, Zuii Cosmetics, all organic, certified organic, cruelty-free, out of Australia, all botanical. And, you can see, this is all day. You can see my skin. This is all day. And I used a powder foundation, and it doesn't really rub off. And so, I got some blush on me, and there's my finger. It doesn't really rub off, but I feel really good about using it because there's absolutely no toxins. Great product. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it directly from their website. I really like that. And then, of course, we like our Pure Haven Essentials. The only issue with Pure Haven Essentials cosmetics is, in my opinion, there's not enough of them. I love cosmetics. So I do have the Pure Haven Essential lip glosses. They're fantastic. They do use beeswax in a lot of their cosmetics. So if you are an ethical vegan and do not want to use cosmetics that have beeswax in them, Pure Haven does have some of their cosmetics that do not have beeswax, but generally lip glosses, chapstick type lip products are going to have beeswax in it. So that's a tip there, because a lot of people don't put two and two together with beeswax, and I personally am okay with it. I really was at a crossroads with it not long ago, and Jean kind of talked me off the edge. I was like giving her a hard time about Pure Haven Essentials. I was like, I can't promote this company. I don't agree with this company if they're using beeswax. I'm an ethical vegan. I don't want to use it. These bees are, they're being held captive in their little, their little boxes. And then I got to thinking about it. It's like, I gotta not overthink a lot of things. And like Jean told me, they have a beehive in their school because, she teaches chemistry and environmental sciences. They have a beehive that they maintain and they take care of at their school. They use the honey. And so bees in nature, they're flying around, they're doing their pollination, doing what bees do, and they bring that pollen all back to some place. So in nature, it could be in the inside of an old dead tree where they have made their beehive. They could make it, I've seen bees swarm in trees. So they're producing honey somewhere. So I'm fine, and I've changed my approach on beeswax and honey. We don't have honey because it's pure sugar. Nick will have honey. He makes a concoction in the morning with a teaspoon of honey, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of applesauce. So he's actually replaced his coffee with that, and he likes it. But for me, I'm not a big honey fan, so I don't use it. But like I said, I've kind of changed my position on beeswax in cosmetics as long as it's organic. Because the bees are going to live, the bees are going to take their, and make their honey somewhere, whether it's in a burned out tree stump in the wild or a well-maintained beehive where a beekeeper is making sure that they have food and water and they're cared for. The bees are not held hostage in their hives. They go out, they go pollinate, do what they're intended to do by nature. So I've kind of changed my personal position on beeswax and honey. And that was thanks to our Starch Queen of Diamonds, Jean Schumacher, for helping me think through that and not just get hung up on, bits and pieces of information. And that's really another tip is always look at the big picture and do what makes you feel right. If something doesn't set right with you, then always question it, question the resource, question the study, and then research the research. And so, basically that's what Jean did with me is I was thinking very much in terms of the ethical vegan side of it without doing my research. And again, there are people that farm bees that don't do it, humanely. So There's going to always be controversy in veganism with bees, beeswax, and honey. So that's my personal opinion. Diane says, more Pure Haven products to be announced next month. That's fantastic, Diane. I'm really looking forward to all of how Pure Haven is evolving. I'm loving seeing the emails with the new products that are coming out, because I love supporting a company that does not use toxins and strives to be a ethical company for its employees and all of its consultants, where they can build a business, but most importantly, that doesn't also damage our body and damage the environment. So all right, everybody, how's that for a one queenless night? I missed you, Jean. I hope everybody that tuned in enjoyed our Q&A tonight. Let's see. Our next Q&A will be next Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. I'll wrap up in closing. I've got a couple more minutes if anybody has one more question. And thank you, Karen, on my skin. I appreciate it. My mother, who passed away at 83 years of age, had beautiful skin, and I will credit her for the good genes there. So thank you. But again, if you eat lots and lots of greens and eat plant-based, your skin is going to look phenomenal. It just happens. When your body heals, your skin is a reflection of how healed your body is. And I've heard that said so many times in the plant-based community, is your skin is a reflection of your health. And it's very true. So, all right, everybody, eat starch, fruits, vegetables, legumes. Do as best as you can to crowd out the animal products. If you eat animal products, get them out of your diet. Crowd out the processed food. Let's get healthy. If you want more information on the Starch Queens, go to starchqueens.net. If you're interested in our weight loss program, go to sqweightloss.com, and Jean and I would love to have you join us. All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you to all of our Starch Queens who are in our program tonight for joining in. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining, to everybody else. We love having you join us, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Talking Tuesdays with the Starch Queens. Good night.